Hi, it's Jan Beta, and today we are going to take a look at the new Amiga 500 Ultra replacement case from A1200 So this is a replacement case, of course, for the Amiga 500 and the Amiga 500 Plus, which is the exact same form factor PCB, so it fits both of those machines. It also is compatible with the Apollo Vampire version 4 standalone and Raspberry Pis 3 and 4, and probably other Pis as well. The friendly folks at A1200 sent me this for reviewing it. It is available currently for 89 euros. I think similar amounts in dollars or whatever currency you have where you are. And this comes in two colors, black, but this is the original color, so it is the beige color that the original Amiga 500s and 500 Pluses had. Without further ado, let's take a look at what we have here. And of course, thank you for sending me this. I've reviewed quite a few things made by A1200 over the past couple of months. Sorry. It was a pleasure to work with them, and the quality of their products is quite excellent. Oh, and they actually also sent me the Amiga 1354 tank mouse replacement shell, which is a nice touch. We have this beautiful case here. And this also comes, I think that's a standard item that you get when you order one of these, a mat for your mouse in the matching color. If you get the black case, you get a black mouse mat. This is a beige mouse mat that exactly matches the color of the case, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to set this aside for a second, and also the mouse. Let's take a look at the main attraction here. Actually quite cool. Oh, there's screws falling out of this, so these got knocked loose during transport. Pretty much looks like an A500 case to me. But this has some modern features. It also comes with this badge, which we're going to take a look at. The build quality actually looks really flawless to me. Plastic feels sturdier than the original ones, at least at this point in time, because the original ones are, I guess, 30 years old or more at this point. So feels pretty nice. These are actually made from scratch, so they are not using the original molds because they are no longer in existence, as far as we retro people know from the original Amiga 500 production. So they remodeled this carefully to match the original cases, and I think they did a wonderful job at that. This has a quality control pass. It has this trapdoor here with cooling fins, which is a nice feature, especially considering that many Amiga 500s today use kind of turbo cards and things like that. So that's going to be better for cooling those things. The original trapdoors cover didn't have any cooling vents in it. I think they got the color pretty much correct. We're going to compare this to an original case that I have in a second. The modern features that this has that were added to the original design. This door here for extra connectivity. You can put this cover in here, which has an RJ45 cutout that fits like network adapters and things like that. So that's a pretty neat touch. You can of course also modify this to your connector that you need. And this is a very nice feature as well. This side cover on the right side, where the original Amiga case didn't have a slot, an expansion possibility. This has slots for your HDMI and USB and an SD card slot. And you can also put this in here, I think. Yeah, that matches this side, which is a cover without any connector cutouts, in case you don't need those. And then on this side we have the left side cover. This is just the regular cover for expansions that plug into the expansion port on the Amiga 500 or A500 Plus. And one nice feature of this is also that this has brass inserts for all the screws. So the screws some of which are missing, so you can see the brass inserts. They're not missing, they just fell out. These are actually machine screws and not the plastic cutting screws that were originally in these cases. And this minimizes the risk of damaging the case actually when you assemble and disassemble the Amiga. So that's a pretty nice feature for the tinkerer. I really appreciate these. The same thing goes for the A1200 net, A1200 cases. They have these brass inserts here. This also comes with a floppy disk drive eject button, which is handy if you want to match the color exactly. Commodore used different drives, so not all disk drives fit this button, but some of them do. And yeah, this is exactly matching the color. You get the black one with the black case, of course, to match the black case. We have this nice badge, which is actually embossed. This is metal 3M sticky tape, so that goes in the position where the case badge goes. Or you can put another replica of an original Amiga case badge on there or something like that. Or even your original badge if you happen to have one from a destroyed Amiga case, which unfortunately happens quite a lot. These cases get brittle over time, so it's a good thing that we have a nice replacement case now. Let me take a couple of seconds to thank the sponsor for this video, PCBWay, my favorite manufacturer of prototype PCBs of all kinds. They also do CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, basically everything the tinkerer needs. And they can also populate your boards for you. Pricing is super reasonable, delivery is fast, and they are friendly people to work with. I highly recommend checking out the link in the video description in case you're interested. Back to our Amiga case. So let's compare this to an original Amiga 500 case, which I happen to have lying around here. Does look really similar, of course, because it's modeled after this. There are different versions of these cases, obviously, over the years, and this is one that has the different Commodore logo. This has a small badge here. This has a larger badge, but there were Amiga 500 cases that had this larger badge as well. This only has this small one here. Other than that, it looks pretty similar. Yeah, it looks really similar and it fits the original hardware. There's not much difference going on there by nature, basically. The color difference is probably because my original Amiga 500 case is slightly yellowed. It has a yellow tint to it, while this is pretty much the color as we remember it from back in the day. So this is the original Amiga 500 color, and this is a yellowed version of that. I think it's a pretty close match. It's impossible to tell the exact correct color, I guess, at this point in time, because basically all the original Amiga 500 cases have some discoloration going on, and I'm pretty sure they don't match, or they didn't match originally exactly, because they always made new batches and the color mix probably wasn't spot on for all of them. So there are differences in color in the original Amiga 500s anyway. So this looks pretty much like the real thing. Or it looks like the real thing back when it was new. If you could get a new Amiga 500 these days. You can get the mini version, but that's not a real Amiga. I'm going to take a look at the inside of this to see the extra mounting holes for the Pi and the Vampire. Now that's a difference from the original. Actually, of course, the original one doesn't have this corner here where you can put the RJ45. This has another screw here. And this has a screw hidden inside this hole here, which is a pretty nice workaround for that. The rubber feet, not as good as the original ones. They are softer, but they are going to do the job. And you can always replace them with something better, I guess. Now this should open up. Yep, and it does. There you can see the threaded inserts. Yeah, and this is like a mirror finish. And that's because they made these from the molds they made for the crystal clear Amiga 500. This beauty here. And as you can see, this is actually completely clear plastic. So this didn't have any kind of texture on top here. So they had to make these molds first and then treat them chemically to have a bit of texture. But they made a run of these Amiga 500 crystal clear cases that I made a whole video about. These are actually still available on the website. I'm going to put a link to that in the video description as well. If you want a crystal clear Amiga, there's still some stock left of these. It was a pretty meticulous process to get this to be fully see-through actually. And then they used the molds they used for this and treated them so it has a bit of a texture like the original cases had for these cases. And now it's a bit roughed up, and that's actually done with a chemical process to the molds. So they can't produce any more of these at this point because, yeah, if you would put translucent plastic in this, it wouldn't be see-through. It would just be translucent. Oh, and while I have this thing out, this has the A1200 net black keycap set. And one thing I pointed out when I reviewed that in a recent video, or in a video a couple of months ago, I guess. When I made the video about that, I pointed out that these brackets here are actually in the wrong direction. So they made a replacement key which has them in the correct orientation now. I'm going to replace that. And these are actually available to backers of the keycaps now. You just go to the website and through the ordering process for the backers, and you get one of these for free. If you ordered one of these faulty or flawed, they are not faulty, it works beautifully, but flawed keycap sets, you are going to get a replacement key. I'm going to put mine on there now. I think this was just a problem with some layouts. So they made layouts for all kinds of different localizations, and the German one had this problem. So I'm just going to put the other key in there, and then this should perfectly match the original Amiga layout. So yeah, this is the original one I got initially, and this is the correct one now. And as I said, you can get these for free if you ordered one of these and have one with these pointing in the wrong direction. So now what's an Amiga case without an actual Amiga in it? So let's put an Amiga in there. And thankfully I have a spare Amiga 500 board that I repaired recently that I can put in here. So there are quite a few little smaller brass inserts. I think this is for the disk drive here. This should fit the original Amiga 500 disk drives, as well as any GoTech adapters and things like that that would fit in an original Amiga 500 case. I'm sure that they fit in here as well because the measurements are according to the original. And these are the extra positions where you can screw in Raspberry Pis or Vampires if that's your thing. You can also get an accessory kit from A1200 net with all kinds of connectors that fit these cutouts, the new doors on the A500, to make the connectivity even easier. You can probably also use standard parts that you can just source elsewhere. These measurements shouldn't vary too much for the standard connectors, but yeah, they offer an accessory kit with those connectors in there, so you can just have it a bit easier. Not sure if I can show this on camera in a good way, but there are some signatures of the original Amiga 500 design team and Commodore personnel. These are in there. This is a nice touch as well. So let's put an Amiga in there. And for that, we need the original shielding. It should fit in here nicely, I guess. It's a bit bent. Yeah, you can see the rust on here. This is from a pretty compromised Amiga 500, but yeah, it fits in here with a bit of bending, and we should be able to fit the circuit board in as well. So yeah, let me remove all the screws so we can properly fit this into the bottom shielding. You can probably make this work without the bottom shielding, but yeah, this rises up the board or stands off the board from the case quite a bit. So you would have to use some washers underneath the screws to make this work fully. So now this should fit in here perfectly. And you want to make sure you have the plastic sheet in the bottom shielding to insulate it from the circuit board. I'm not sure if mine's in there, so let's take a look. Yeah, it's in there. So now all the screws go back in. Okay, actually didn't get all the screws back in. But this should now fit in here still. And this matches up perfectly with the screw holes. And yeah, this bottom shielding is super bent, so didn't manage to get 3 of these in there because the positions where the screws go are so bent on this shield that I'm going to have to do some work on that, I guess. But now we have an Amiga in here that should be screwed down. I think this bottom shielding and the screws came from a revision 6 Amiga 500, and this is an Amiga, the 5th revision 5 board. But that's not a huge difference. And these don't have inserts, so you're going to have to cut the plastic with the screws, like on the original. But yeah, that's actually not a big deal. This fits in here really nicely. The disk drive cutouts also match up. I'm not sure if I have a disk drive to put in here, but I have a keyboard that we can put in here. Just to show you how this is going to look. So this should fit in here like so and connect to the keyboard connector. And this should sit on the sides of the case here, which it does. The metal on this is a bit warped, as with all old computer parts. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find a drive, but for now, let's just see how this looks with the keyboard. And this is one of my nicer Amiga 500 keyboards, or the nicest one I have, actually, which matches the color magnificently. Looks like a new Amiga 500, nearly. One issue I always encounter, even with original Amiga 500 cases, is that these LEDs don't line up correctly once you put a keyboard in. But in this case, they're pretty good. So it fits an Amiga, it fits a keyboard. I think one of the LEDs in this keyboard is broken, but we're going to overlook that. Or you are going to have to overlook that. Now we should be able to use the screws this came with and screw them into the threaded inserts. This feels so much nicer than on an original Amiga 500 case. So there we go. That's a really nice looking Amiga 500 now. So we won't be able to do much with this at this stage, but still, I want to put the badge on. The classic edition. I love these badges. The one for the crystal edition is shiny silvery, of course. This one, yeah, it just fits perfectly in here. The other way around. Yeah, it's perfect. This looks so cool. That looks mighty nice. Love the badge. Case. It's not quite as wobbly as the original cases tended to be, and the plastic in these should also be at least more UV resistant. I'm not sure. Time will tell if this starts yellowing at some point. I guess all plastics do at some point, but this should be more resistant to UV light and yellowing than the original plastics were, because it's a more modern plastic mix, and also more expensive probably because Commodore cut every corner they could regarding cost reducing. I really want to replace this for now with the other one. So I'm just going to take it out because I don't have any extra expansions in there yet. So I'm just going to put this in here. It should be relatively easy to do. There we go. So now we have this closed up and looking more like a stock Amiga 500. Hey, and the Amiga inside also still works, although unfortunately the power LED is broken. the drive LED lit up, but the power LED is bad, so I'm going to have to replace that. Yeah, and I looked around for a spare Amiga 500 disk drive, and I didn't find one. Would be nice to have one in here, so I'm going to have to either mod a PC drive to those specs or find another Amiga 500 disk drive. But that's a minor issue. The case itself is beautiful, sturdy, and has some really nice upgrades compared to the original. I also really like this badge. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yeah, this is how this looks now. This keyboard actually looks more yellowed than the A500 case. I thought it wasn't yellowed at all, but it is apparently a bit yellowed. This is pretty much the original color, and the keys should be very much the same color. There is a slight difference, but I think it still looks like a nearly new Amiga 500. So I also got the mouse pad, which is the same color as that. It doesn't even fit on my tiny little desk here. That is the mouse pad, and I'm going to show you the mouse enclosure, which is not part of this set but available separately. This actually looks a bit more yellow than the case. That's funny. So maybe they modeled this after a yellowed model. Yeah, this is a bit of a different color, but it's a new enclosure for the old tank mice, which is exactly the same as the originals. I've shown the crystal clear tank mouse already, and that fit the innards of an original tank mouse nicely. So I think this is also made from the same molds and should fit the innards of a tank mouse. And the mouse pad is a nice touch. I think you get these with the case, actually. That's exactly the same color as the case, which is kind of odd looking, but also pretty satisfying in a way. I actually like this quite a bit. Yeah, I think that's it for today. First smaller video after my duly needed little summer break that I took. There's going to be more regular videos from now on, and some more intricate stuff as well. But I really needed some time out. I hope you understand. A1200net actually sent me some other stuff as well that I'm going to show in future videos. This one was about the A500 Ultra replacement case that you can get. The links to that are in the video description. Also the links to everything else I've shown here. Thanks again to A1200net for letting me test their stuff and show it to you. I'm not getting paid to do this. I just get the things and can do reviews that are unbiased, except for the fact that I'm getting this stuff for free. I tend to point out things that I don't like about stuff, and there's really nothing I don't like about this. Pretty well thought through. The threaded inserts, such a game changer for my A1200 where I've used them for a long time. This indeed is a very nice option for your Amiga 500 board or your badly broken Amiga 500 case to replace that. And also if you just want to upgrade your Amiga 500 with some of the modern expansions that are available and give it HDMI out and things like that, there are handy little cutouts, so you don't have to ruin your original case maybe. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Special thanks, of course, to everybody who supports me on Patreon or on the YouTube channel memberships page or on Ko-fi or elsewhere. The links are in the video description as usual. Hope to see you again on this channel sometime. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Yeah, not much I can do with this. No Turrican. I need a disk drive.